You know that feeling? You're online trying to get something done with an AI bot and it doesn't get it.
Mhm.
You give it your order number, maybe mention you talked to someone last week, explain the product broke, you need a refund,
Right.
and it just fixates on refund request,
Hmm.
gives you a standard policy line, completely ignoring your history, the context, everything. Feels like talking to a very fast, very polite brick wall.
Yeah, it's that classic frustration, isn't it, with automation that lacks, well, genuine understanding.
Exactly.
They follow these rigid, predefined paths, or we pull some generic info, because they just can't grasp the dynamic, specific details of your situation.
Mm-hmm.
And our sources, they paint a picture of this happening everywhere. Simple customer chats, complex internal stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine a swamped customer support team after a big product launch. They're relying on bots that just can't adapt because they don't have the real-time data or, the history of what's been going on with that customer. It's a huge bottleneck.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it feels like AI automation, while it has all this promise, it just hits this wall in complex environments precisely because it can't handle that real-world messiness, that crucial context.
Right.
But our sources for this deep dive, they hint at a breakthrough. AI agents that do understand the full picture, pulling in real-time data, remembering past interactions,
Yeah.
and actually making intelligent decisions based on a complete view.
Yeah. So what enables this?
Well, the fundamental concept from the material that seems to unlock this capability is called modular contextual processing, MCP.
MCP. Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission for this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
take the source material on MCP, figure out exactly what it is, understand why the sources are calling it a game changer,
Mm-hmm.
and see how it powers truly intelligent agentic automation. We're going to look at why context is such a tough nut to crack for AI today.
Yeah, start with the problem.
Define MCP, explore the benefits for agentic AI, and then dive into some specific real-world examples the sources give us. Sounds like a solid plan. And the sources make a compelling case that, before we can really appreciate the solution, MCP, we need to fully grasp the problem of context in AI today.
Right. So the material breaks down a few key reasons why AI often struggles here. First off, you've got those old school rule-based bots.
Ah, yes. Built on strict if-then commands, basically. The source gives an example, like a bot might be programmed for a simple refund flow.
Okay.
But if that specific customer's account history needs an extra security check, something not explicitly coded in the rules, well, the bot just can't adapt.
It hits a wall.
Exactly. It hits an edge case and fails or has to hand off to a human because it's just trapped in its pre-programmed logic. Can't handle the unexpected.
Okay, so that's the rigid, rule-based world. Then you have the newer kids on the block, right? The generic large language models, LLMs.
Yeah, and they can sound incredibly human-like, which is, great for basic conversation.
Sure.
But the sources point out they often lack that deep integration with enterprise systems, the real plumbing of a business.
So they talk the talk, but can't walk the walk.
Kind of. I mean, you might ask a generic LLM, where's my order? And get a perfectly worded but ultimately useless response like, your order hasn't shipped yet.
Right. I've had that.
What you need is a response that pulls real-time data from the warehouse system, knows the inventory levels right now, or understands the specific supply chain status for your order. A generic LLM just doesn't have access to that kind of nuanced cross-system context.
Which is essential for actual business processes.
Exactly. And this leads straight into the third big challenge the sources highlight: siloed data.
The classic problem. Information scattered everywhere. Customer details in the CRM.
Order history in the ERP.
Support tickets in another system. Manufacturing data over here, logistics over there. It's fragmented.
And that fragmentation, as the sources put it, creates blind spots for AI agents.
Makes sense.
The agent can only see little pieces of the puzzle. So it's impossible to form a complete, accurate understanding of a situation that spans multiple systems or departments.
And the result, according to the material we looked at, is just huge inefficiency. You get frustrated customers,
Overburdened teams.
missed opportunities, all because the AI can't act intelligently on the full picture. That stat the sources mention is pretty stark.
The Gartner one?
Yeah. Gartner found that in 2024, 70% of enterprises cited lack of contextual understanding as a top barrier to scaling AI automation. 70%.
Wow. That number really drives home how fundamental this challenge is, doesn't it? It's not just some minor glitch. It's actively stopping businesses from getting real value out of AI.
which is exactly the problem MCP is designed to solve.
Precisely.
So let's dive into MCP itself. According to the sources, how should we actually define modular contextual processing? What is it?
Well, the sources use a pretty helpful analogy. Think of MCP as the AI agent's brain's working memory.
Okay, working memory. I like that.
Yeah. Its core function isn't just to store data, but to dynamically gather it, organize it, and actively process all the relevant context the agent needs
For what purpose?
to make smarter, more informed decisions in real time.
And the modular part is important, you said. It's not just a big jumble of info.
Exactly. That's really key to handling complexity. It breaks down all that relevant context into manageable, reusable modules.
Like building blocks.
Sort of. The sources explain the mechanism basically in three parts. First, modularity itself, separating different kinds of context into distinct components. Like you might have a module for the customer's interaction history,
Right.
another for the current system status they're asking about, or one for figuring out the user's specific intent right now.
Okay, discrete chunks.
Second, dynamic integration. This is crucial. MCP actively connects, usually via APIs,
Right.
to all those different enterprise systems we just talked about, the CRMs, ERPs, databases, ticketing systems.
The silos.
Exactly, to pull the latest real-time data from those sources, not stale information.
Got it. And the third part.
Real-time processing. It doesn't just grab the data once and call it a day.
Mhm.
It's continuously updating and processing that context as the situation changes, as new information comes in, ensuring the agent is always acting on the most current, most relevant understanding of what's going on.
Okay, so instead of being stuck with rigid rules or just pulling generic info, MCP gives the AI agent this dynamic, comprehensive picture. It's like giving it all the right files for the current case, constantly updated,
Right.
and the ability to quickly sort through them to understand the situation deeply. It can actually reason and act with real understanding, not just pattern matching.
Exactly. And this sophisticated level of context handling is absolutely fundamental for what the sources call agentic AI.
Right, agentic AI.
Yeah,
Let's quickly define that based on the material.
sure. The material defines them as autonomous systems. They
Yeah.
can perceive their environment, decide on a course of action, and then actually execute those actions to achieve specific goals. They're not just passive tools.
Autonomous, goal-driven agents. So how does MCP specifically enable them to work effectively?
Well, the sources highlight three really critical benefits MCP brings to the table for these agents. First, adaptability. This is huge
Okay.
because MCP feeds the agent dynamic real-time context. The agent isn't stuck just following one script. It can adjust its actions based on the evolving situation.
Makes sense.
The source gives a powerful example: an AI support agent using MCP. It can detect that a customer's issue based on the full context MCP provides, their history, the system status, maybe potential risk factors, is actually high risk. So it can autonomously decide right then to escalate that ticket to a human supervisor immediately. Something a less context-aware bot just couldn't do, but reacts intelligently to the nuances.
That flexibility is a massive leap forward from basic bots.
It really is. Second benefit, modularity for scalability.
Okay, scalability. How does modularity help there?
But by breaking down context into those reusable modules we talked about, agents can tackle much more complex multi-step workflows without getting, overwhelmed or confused. The source mentions an example of a single agent using different modular context blocks to manage seemingly disparate tasks like processing an order,
Okay.
checking inventory levels in a completely separate system, and sending customer notifications about shipping delays based on yet another data source. It handles the complexity by managing its understanding in these discrete linked components.
So you're moving beyond just automating a single simple step to automating an entire cross-functional process.
Absolutely, that's the goal. And the third benefit is real-time decision-making.
Because the data is fresh.
Exactly. Because MCP is constantly pulling and processing live data, agents can make decisions and take action much faster and with much greater accuracy.
Less lag, better outcomes.
Precisely. The sources even reference a McKinsey study finding that this kind of real-time decision-making can boost operational efficiency by up to 30%.
Wow, 30%.
Yeah. And MCP is what empowers AI agents to actually achieve that kind of speed and precision in the real world.
Yeah.
It makes it possible.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. How is this actually put into practice? The theory sounds great, but how does it work? The source uses lowtouch.ai as an example platform that integrates MCP.
Yes, the source does describe how lowtouch.ai incorporates MCP into their platform to build these agentic capabilities.
Huh?
Now, focusing just on the non-proprietary details shared in the material,
Right.
they emphasize a few key aspects of their approach. First, they ensure seamless system integration.
Connecting the dots.
Right. Their platform uses MCP to connect directly and efficiently with various big enterprise tools.
Mm.
The source mentions Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow as examples.
The usual suspects.
Yeah. This ensures the AI agents built on their platform always have access, via MCP, to the absolute latest data from those critical business systems.
Okay, so step one, get the real-time data flowing. What else?
Second, they address context retention over time. This is tricky, right?
Yeah.
Remembering relevant past interactions or information.
Yeah, how do they manage that?
They pair MCP with something called a vector database for retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
RAG. Okay, break that down a bit.
Sure. For those maybe less deep in the AI architecture terms, think of RAG as a way for the agent to retrieve highly relevant information from a massive library of documents or past data.
Like a super smart search.
Kind of. The vector database helps by storing context like past conversation histories or user preferences, not just as raw text, but as numerical representations called embeddings.
Math representations of meaning.
Exactly. These embeddings let the system quickly find and retrieve the most relevant past context when the agent needs it, feeding that back into MCP for the agent's current understanding.
Okay, so it's like giving the agent a super efficient, lightning-fast library card and indexing system for its past experiences and relevant docs. It pulls relevant history, not just everything.
Precisely. Very important distinction. They also support human-in-the-loop HITL oversight.
Which seems crucial for trust and control, especially in business. Yeah.
Absolutely vital. MCP enables configurable triggers.
Right.
So the system can pause an agent's action if it's flagged as potentially high risk and send it off for human approval. And critically, because of MCP, the human approver gets a rich summary with all the necessary contextual data to make an informed decision quickly. They're not starting from scratch.
That makes the human oversight much more effective.
Definitely. And finally, the source mentions they power conversational scheduling.
What's that?
MCP enables natural language interfaces for automating workflows. So you could just tell the system, generate a daily sales report at 8 a.m.
Like talking to an assistant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And MCP provides the agent with the context it needs to understand what daily sales report actually means in that specific business system, where the relevant data lives, and how to execute that action reliably at the specified time.
Got it. So combining MCP with these features, the integration, the memory with RAG, the human oversight, the natural language control, really makes the agents proactive, adaptive, capable of handling complex stuff, and ensures they operate within the necessary security and compliance boundaries. That's what the source highlights.
Precisely. And you can really see the tangible impact of this whole approach when you look across different industries.
Right.
The sources provide some pretty compelling real-world examples of MCP in action.
Okay, let's look at those applications then. Show how these MCP-enabled agents are actually delivering measurable value. Where do they start?
Well, in finance, specifically fraud detection, the source contrasts a bank using an MCP agent with rivals maybe relying on older, slower systems.
Okay.
So while the competitor banks might be scrambling after a fraudulent transaction has already happened.
Reacting.
Exactly. The bank with the MCP agent pulls transaction histories, analyzes patterns, flags anomalies using that real-time context, and can actually freeze accounts in real time.
Before the loss escalates.
Right. Preventing losses before they even mount.
Yeah.
Shifting from reactive damage control to proactive prevention.
Huge impact on the bottom line and customer trust there. What about customer support?
In customer support, they describe a cognitive help desk agent using MCP. This agent can pull up the customer's entire past ticket history, check the current status of relevant systems, and use that comprehensive context to understand and resolve an issue, often in just one interaction. No more endless back and forth.
That sounds amazing. Does it work?
Apparently so. The source notes this approach led to a 30% boost in customer satisfaction.
30%. That's a massive improvement in user experience and efficiency for the support team.
It really is.
Yeah.
Then there's IT service management, or ITSM. Think about self-healing infrastructure.
Okay.
Imagine a server starts failing at 3 a.m. An SRE agent, like an IT operations agent, powered by MCP, can pull the logs analyze system metrics, understand the context of recent software deployments.
Connect the failure to the change.
Exactly. Identify a faulty build, autonomously roll it back, and restore the service level agreements, all while the human team is asleep.
Automating complex, critical recovery processes during off hours. That's a true game changer for system reliability and, frankly, team sanity.
No doubt. And finally, they give an example in logistics, looking at supply chain optimization.
Okay, how does MCP help there?
An agent using MCP monitors real-time shipment data from all the various points in the supply chain carriers, warehouses, traffic data, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It can then predict potential delays based on all these contextual factors, weather, port congestion, etc., and proactively reroute deliveries before the delay happens.
So instead of just reporting a delay,
It avoids it,
Mm.
ensuring goods arrive on time, or maybe even, as the source suggests, potentially a day early.
getting ahead of problems and optimizing outcomes based on constantly changing real-time data from multiple sources.
Yeah, these examples really underscore how MCP allows AI agents to operate with a level of precision and contextual understanding that delivers significant measurable business value across really diverse functions, too.
They certainly do. And the source material makes a powerful case that this context awareness isn't just a nice-to-have feature anymore.
It's the fundamental requirement for the next generation of agentic AI. And MCP really appears to be the key technology making that possible.
It really seems like it's the essential ingredient, doesn't it? The thing that moves AI beyond just automating single tasks following a rigid script
Right.
towards truly intelligent automation that can adapt, scale, and make complex decisions in real time because it genuinely understands the situation. MCP enables that leap.
Yeah, it gives AI agents that crucial ability to not just access tons of data, but to
Right.
process it, understand it dynamically, giving them that working memory they need to actually navigate the complexity of real-world enterprise environments.
So wrapping this up,
Yeah.
what does this all mean for you listening? Given how MCP allows these AI agents to pull and process such diverse real-time context from all these different systems to handle these really complex scenarios, what other challenging processes or maybe even entire industries beyond the examples we just discussed could be completely transformed by this kind of truly context-aware AI?
Good question.
What specific problems or inefficiencies in your world, in your work, could this approach potentially help solve? Something to think about.